anything and everything that we can. Hoopla! Did you know? Did you know that today is Giving Now Tuesday?
I did not know. Sorry, guys. We had our mic muted again, but we'll get this perfect one of these days.
One day it'll be perfect. But today we just want to share with you about why it's so important and why we're doing Giving Now Tuesday after after we also had Giving Tuesday in November. Currently, the Y's are doing a lot to support our community as much as we possibly can. Here at Camp Weaver, we're running an emergency daycare for first responders and for essential workers. We're also running one up at our Reedsville location. And then we're also doing some food drives and doing support reach out to the elderly and to our members as well.
Yeah, so just keep in mind that the Y is so much more than a gym. It really is. It's a community and it's a social service organization, and we're here to make sure that the community can continue to thrive, and the Y is here to stay. So please, if you support us, if you support Camp Weaver, consider making a generous donation. You can do that on our Facebook page or on Camp Weaver's website as well, and that'll direct you to some locations about Giving Tuesday with some more information. So, what are we doing today at camp? What's been going on?
So today at camp we've been out moving around and working on getting our skills with video editing up to date and getting some more content up and out for you. I'm pretty excited because as I'm working through learning this process, I think there's going to be a really incredible blooper video coming out here in the next couple of weeks with all the mistakes that we've been making along the way. One thing that was really exciting, we got to go out earlier today and we filmed a segment where we were meeting some more of the animals out there, so we'll be able to share that with you later on in the week. And the kids are out there, they're having a blast. They were out on the zip line this afternoon.
Very cool, very cool. So today we have another special guest, one of our counselors, CiCi, and she's going to be coming on and she'll do the normal interview, but we're also really excited to just kind of see how she's doing, and I think she's going to be teaching us an embroidery project. Did I say that right, CiCi?
Yes.
Awesome. Sorry. So yeah, CiCi, welcome to the show. I bet have you ever been on live television with this kind of an audience before?
I have not. Well, okay, I was on a news commercial when I was like 5.
Nice.
That's
very
pretty
nice.
cool.
So, well, watch out. We are, I bet any day now, NBC News or CBS is going to make an offer. So we'll remember you guys.
Yeah. Or some good news. You know, John Krasinski doing his thing.
Yeah.
He totally
cool.
took
That
that
would be
from
really
you
cool.
guys.
So anyway, we're just waiting for our agents to work things out. But until then, we're going to keep bringing you the news at Camp Weaver and hopefully some awesome content uplift from counselors just like you. So, CiCi, first of all, what is your camp name? Well, I guess I've been calling you by your camp name, but Sierra. What is your camp name, and how did you end up with that name?
So, Ciara is a perfume. That's how I got like my original name, to what my mom named me after. So my camp name is CiCi. It was always hard for people to pronounce my name growing up. I guess, you know, they're used to Sierra or whatever. And like 3rd grade, if you got enough points from like reading books, you got to go to a pizza party. Well, guess where the pizza party was? CiCi's Pizza. So we pull up and everyone's like, oh, ha, ha, CiCi. And that's what like my like elementary school friends called me for a really long time. And I knew I would answer to it. I wanted to pick something funky like queso, but I was like, I don't know if I'll answer to it, and I don't know if I look like a queso. So I thought I would go with something that I'd answer.
Awesome. How many years have you been at camp, CiCi?
So I have done camp for 2 years. I worked here for 2 years. The first year I did outdoor cooking as like my main activity, and then this past year I did financial literacy or money magic.
Very cool. So we haven't actually talked about financial literacy, I don't think, on the program yet. Can you just tell us a little bit about what that program is? That's, you know, it's fairly unique to Camp Weaver.
Yeah, so it's through, I believe, the Bankers Association. They give a lot of kids the opportunity to come to camp at no cost to them or their families. And they like drive a big old bus, usually from their school, from whatever city they're from. And they take a class with me, and we did money magic, and we just taught them some basics. Like, we talked about taxes, we talked about, savings accounts, we talked about the kind of stuff I wish I had learned when I was in middle school, because I still feel like I don't know some of that stuff, so I taught myself as well. Um, but it's a really great opportunity for them to learn something different when they're at camp and still get like that camp experience.
Very, very cool. So, what is your favorite camp activity, and why do you enjoy that activity so much? We know that financial literacy or money magic is definitely your favorite.
Or Disney trivia when it's available.
Oh, okay.
But I love going to arts and crafts. I would like sneak up there all the time just to see what they were up to. That was a really fun one. Outdoor cooking, because I got to eat every day. That was monkey bread in a Dutch oven is life changing. So I have to go with outdoor cooking.
That's pretty cool. I heard you mention Disney trivia, and I think that's pretty cool. How did Disney trivia come about, CiCi?
So the first year I was here, I'm a Disney enthusiast. I actually got to work for them for a couple months before they shut down as a part of an internship. But before that, I've always loved it. I've gotten to go a couple times. I've been very fortunate. I love the movies. And Hoopla was like, listen, if you guys have an activity of something you're passionate about, like, we want, the kids want new stuff. The kids who have been here for years and years, there's always something new to talk to them about. And he was like, do you know how to juggle? I was like, I do not know how to juggle. But I know a lot about Disney, and I know a lot of kids who love Disney because I am also, in fact, a child. And so I thought it would be really fun to like quiz the kids, and like, so it kind of started off as like just trivia, but then it evolved to like Disney dance party and like Disney charades, and just kind of like a mishmash of however I can incorporate Disney into something fun for the kids.
That's really awesome. We really love getting to share just different ideas and have counselors bring in just their own personal flair to camp, because really at the end of the day, kids come to camp because of the people that are here, not because of the buildings and the land and the property. That's not the exciting part.
100%. I think some of the coolest like activities we have are ones thought up by our counselors, like nature walks, or just doing what's the Brazilian game where you like hit the thing?
Pateka.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Pateka.
Pateka. That was an awesome activity.
Well, cool. I know, CiCi, that you have a little bit more of your own personal flair that you want to share with us, so we're going to turn it over to you and let you give us another little lesson.
All right. So something that I've picked up while we've all been stuck at home has been embroidery. It's not something I ever got into because I didn't think I would be very good at it, but it will surprise you at how easy it is, at how simple it is, and you only need a couple like key things to do it. So first of all, you're going to need fabric. Usually something that is thick enough to hold it, but thin enough that you're not gonna that you'll be able to see through it almost. So I actually got like a kit at like Michael's or Hobby Lobby, and it came with the fabric, it came with some sewing needles, it came with some thread, and it came with a hoop. You don't need a hoop. I mean, they're only a couple of dollars, but it's really just to like keep stuff in place. But if you're good at holding your fabric, then you're fine. You don't need one. Fun fact, embroidery floss and friendship bracelet string are in fact the same thing. So I was like, man, where am I gonna get all this embroidery floss if I want to embroider? I had packs of friendship bracelet string from camp, and it has like a whole new purpose now. So
that's where all that friendship bracelet string went. No, I'm just
I have a lot. That's all I'm gonna say. I'd be like on a rainy day and we'd be stuck and no one wanted to run to arts and crafts to get stuff. I'd be like, listen, I have string. It's okay. So this is a good like indoor activity as well. So you can pick like a pattern. There's a lot of things on like Etsy, where you can kind of get like a cross stitch pattern to kind of try. I do like more like freehand stuff. So what I did is I found like an image of lavender that I liked online, and I kind of traced over it with a pen, and then I use that as like a jumping point for my embroidery. I just do really simple stitches. I'm in the process of trying to learn some other ones. There's a lot of really cool YouTube videos out there about like the different stitches you can do. I know, it's like a whole empire. Who knew? And it's still very popular. You know, it's not old timey. There's some really cool stuff. There's some really like, I've seen a giant cross stitch pattern that's probably the size of a painting, and it's all stuff from The Office. And like all the inside jokes and like the little symbols and stuff. So like you can make it whatever you want it to be. It does not have to be flowers. That's just the simplest thing for me to do personally. Um, all you have to do is get your embroidery floss or your friendship bracelet string. I usually double it up so I don't have to keep like restitching. Um, and then sometimes I work from the back because it's easier to kind of see where your needle is going to go. Um, there's really not much more to it. I think it's very much so like a starting point, and you can kind of jump off, and go wherever you want with it, which is like one of my favorite things. Like I want to do some Disney stuff. Like there's a pattern for the castle and stuff like that. So I think it's just like most people have the string or some thread. Your mom probably has like a needle she uses for mending or something of that, or like they have little tiny baby like sewing kits at like the dollar store. And you can use most fabrics, and I think it's just like a really cool way to show some new creativity. Do we have
So
any
is
questions in the
there,
audience?
does the pattern go on the back of it, and then you kind of like, is it almost like kind of like a connect the dots type puzzle? How does the pattern work?
So it really just, I haven't used like a pattern that I've bought yet. What I've done, because it's easier for me, is like you can see it says like relax here. That was something I like etched out and like very lightly in pin.
Oh,
So
cool.
when I'm sewing, I can see what I'm doing. There were also a couple things that came with the kit that already had like a printed design on it, and then you kind of like went from there, and you could like add to it, or if you didn't cover it up, it was just like a black print, and you could do stuff around it. So it's maybe I don't even know if I'm doing it correctly, but it turns out so.
I mean, if you like it and it's coming out looking like that, I think you're doing something right.
Yeah, I actually finished a piece that was one of those printed ones, and I framed it, and it's going to my mom's for Mother's
Whoa.
Day. Hopefully she didn't, she's not watching this, but if she is, it's okay, she knows.
Surprise, Mom.
She she helped pick out the frame. But it was something that like I knew would like go with our kitchen decor, and I thought she would like because it was something I spent time on. So if you guys need Mother's Day gifts, fabric, needle, thread is all you need.
Very cool, very cool. Well, CiCi, as we kind of wrap up your interview and our time online together with you, do you have anything that you'd like to share with your fellow staff, our campers and their families? Any words of encouragement, shout outs, things like that?
So shout out to my Guilford gals. Y'all know who you are. I was always in Guilford gals. Whoop, whoop. I love, if any of my campers are watching, I miss you guys so much. I can't wait to see you this summer. I hope that you stay sane until then. If not, we will let you just run. Just run across camp to get the energy out. Um, and all my fellow co-counselors, I hope you guys are doing great. I hope school's not too bad. I know it's kind of a difficult transition to do online, but for most people who are in college are almost done, and I'm sure high school and middle school and elementary school aren't too far behind. Just find things to keep you busy. Like I was kind of driving myself insane, and then I realized I have all this crafting stuff. I have a lot of like, we have Disney Plus now. Do you know how great of a resource that is? I just can't go wrong. There's also, if you're really into Disney like me, there are ride POVs which is where you can watch a video and it's like you're on the ride. It sounds silly, but some people are really into it. So literally the only
CiCi,
limit
when
you
you say
have,
some people, do you mean you?
maybe.
I mean, I love
I miss
Tower
Haunted
of Terror.
Mansion,
That's
you
probably
guys.
Tower of Terror
my
is
favorite ride of all time.
Well, I mean, because I worked there, I got into the parks for free. So I went a lot. I probably went almost every single day I had off that I wasn't working. So I miss it a lot.
I know that there's like a shroud of secrecy surrounding the Disney. Was there anything interesting about working there? Like, what's an interesting fact that you learned while you were working?
Okay,
Disney?
that's fair.
Is Mickey
So,
real? Would be my
right, that I can tell you legally. So I worked at Magic Kingdom, which is of course like the original. It's fascinating because there are people who have literally worked there since the day it opened. And a lot of them were at my store because I was at one of the like larger stores on Main Street that had also been there since the park had opened. Something that's really interesting is cast members get a little like, I don't want to say cheat sheet, it's a pamphlet, and it kind of tells them like, okay, if a guest is looking for hot dogs, these are the restaurants that you can send them to. Or if a guest wants to know what time this specific show is, here are all the times for the shows. Most of it is stuff that the public has access to. It's just in a little quick sheet for us. And some of it is like, we can't show to guests. Like surprise things that are happening. So I think that's a really interesting
not
piece
see the
I had no
card
idea
either?
about. What?
Can they not see the card either? Do you have to be like, hold on just a second?
I mean, you can show them like parts of it, but you're not supposed to like give one to them or be like, here's all the company secrets. No, just kidding. But no, that was really interesting, and I think a lot of people have like found this out because they showed it on like a documentary about Disney recently. But there is a underground tunnel system.
That's what I was gonna ask.
It's called the Utilidors. It is basically a mini city. There are changing rooms, lockers, some of the costuming is under there, there's break rooms, there's like a cafeteria, there's people's offices, there's storage. I would be lying if I said I hadn't gotten lost a couple times.
Oh, sure.
But it's fascinating, but also like weird at the same time. I don't know how to describe it, but so when you're in Magic Kingdom, you are on the second floor because the like lower level is the first floor, and it was already built like on top of swamp, so obviously it's not like a basement. You're on the second floor. So that's why when you go into Magic Kingdom, you have to go in through like a monorail or a ferry because you aren't at the same level that you came in at.
Interesting.
That's very neat.
So,
Cool. Well, thank
I don't
you
know
so
how many more
much for
secrets I can reveal, but if people have questions, then I'll try.
Yeah, for sure. If you guys do have any Disney-related questions, I'm sure CiCi would be happy to rejoin us for the show and answer at least what she can.
100%. I am in the process of writing some articles right now about like where you can find gluten-free options or like frugal tips if you want to do Disney on a budget, which I've done many times. Or if you're not sure what age range you should take your kids or something of that nature. But even if you can't make it all the way to the Magic Kingdom, there's plenty of things you can do at home to kind of keep the magic alive, like watching some Disney movies. There's lots of activities out there. I think there's a artist right now who has coloring pages of like different Disney attractions that you can download for free. So lots of cool stuff out there.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and I hope that you're doing great and staying safe. And we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Bye.
See you,
Bye,
CiCi.
CiCi.
Do I hang up?
So Hoopla, speaking of some just kind of different things that people have brought to camp, one thing that I always really enjoy is anytime you get a chance to do a skit or a little activity that involves music. I feel like of our full-time staff, you might be the most musically gifted. Do you have any music that you'd like to share with us today?
Yeah, so I appreciate your kind words. Susan my wife must have given you some money to say that. But yeah, I enjoy playing music. I actually recently started recording a podcast where we talk about music. We do an album of the week. Yeah, so I play guitar, and I have since I was in probably the 7th grade. It's just one of those things that, you know, I know I'm no Jimi Hendrix, but it's always been just something that I've really enjoyed doing if I'm having a tough day or if I just want to relax. It's just been really fun for me to kind of learn how to play over the years. So I don't play nearly as much as I used to, unfortunately. When I was in college, I used to play 2-3 hours a day. Now it's maybe 2 to 3 hours a month, if even. But I did have some stuff. I think the guitar is a super interesting instrument. So I brought some of my guitars and my equipment up to show you guys, and we'll just kind of talk about some of the differences in some of the equipment that we have. So we're going to go over
that way to our
here.
Perfect seamless transition.
Yes, so. All right, so we'll get started with, let's see. So this is probably the guitar that most of our campers are familiar with, that they've seen. If they see, this is my kind of my regular guitar that I'll play at closing campfire. This is an Epiphone, which is kind of a mid-range model. This is by no means like a $1,000 guitar, but it's a great kind of workhorse guitar, and is pretty much kind of my go-to just for strumming around camp. So a couple of just kind of interesting parts, and I'll point this out on each of the guitars that I have, but I'll kind of run through the different parts of the guitar. So this right here, this is called the headstock, and then on the back you'll notice that has these tuning keys. And these tuning keys, depending on which way that you turn them, allows you to tune each individual string. If you tighten it, let's see, that would be counterclockwise, it'll tighten the string, and if you tighten it clockwise, it'll actually loosen them up. Moving down the neck, you've got the actual physical neck of the guitar, and you'll notice that along the neck, you've got each different section, and these are called frets. And frets are what you're going to be pressing the string into. Basically, the way that you increase the pitch or make the pitch higher on a guitar string is you're basically shortening the string. So right now, this is an open E, but if I shorten that string to a G, which is the 3rd fret on that first string, you can hear that gets a little bit higher in tone. The 12th fret on guitars is actually kind of where that whole musical scale starts over again. So this is an E, but this is an E as well. So I don't know a whole lot about music theory. There are staff out there that know a lot more than I do, but those are some of the basic parts. So you've got your frets all the way down, and as you guys might be able to see, the frets are just slightly raised. Usually they're kind of like a copper or a brass type material, but that's how you can make the different tones.
So Hoopla, I noticed that there's some different strings on there, and they all look a little bit different. Why do those strings look different?
So yeah, so each string basically represents a different note that you can play. So it goes from thickest, the first, depending on the type of guitar that you're looking at, usually the top 3 are wound, usually with, I believe it's a nickel winding around it, and then the bottom 3, depending on what kind of guitar model you have, are not wound. It's just a simple steel string that goes around, and each has a different thickness. So you've got the E all the way down to the high E, which are much different in tone. So a thicker string gives a much more bassy tone. The thinner strings give much higher pitch. So yeah, that's my Epiphone. Down here is the bridge. This part of the guitar is called the bridge. The plastic part that the strings go across is called the saddle, and that's an important part of a guitar's tone. And then these are the bridge pins. These things are actually like little plastic pins. So that is just kind of a basic guitar. So that's kind of my basic ones that I have around camp, but I want to share with you guys some of the ones that I traditionally don't have walking around camp, just because they've got some value to me. So this was a guitar that I accidentally won on an eBay auction about 2 years ago, and this is a 1969. I had the model or the year wrong when I was telling campers about it the other day, but this is a 1969 Silvertone acoustic guitar. And what I think is just kind of interesting is back at that time in the mid-60s, you could buy anything from a Sears catalog. For those of you guys that have heard of Sears houses, they were prefabricated homes that you could literally buy, and you could buy it from the Sears catalog, and this prefabricated house would show up at your door. So Sears was kind of, at that time, kind of the Amazon of the 50s and the 60s. And guitars was no exception. So they started manufacturing guitars under the name Silvertone, and while they were not by any means as popular or as expensive as a Fender or a Gibson or some of those better known brands, they really did make some really beautiful guitars that have held up to the test of time. And I think that the reason that I prefer to collect vintage instruments is that I just think that every scratch, every ding really tells kind of a story. This guitar, unfortunately, has started to split along the back, but I think it has kind of a neat sound to it. So the other thing that I think is kind of neat to point out is you noticed on that other guitar that I had, the tuning heads on the back are actually closed. So that's a little bit more modern of a technology, and it also is a little bit more expensive of a technology. Sears was trying to produce, when they put out the Silvertone, they were trying to put out guitars that were affordable, so and that were accessible to everyday people. So this actually has open gears on the back. What that means is that it is a heck of a lot harder to tune than those closed gear ones, because sometimes grit gets in there, but still kind of a neat example of an older style of guitar. All the same general pieces, relatively the same, but that is the Silvertone. This is actually my favorite guitar, and I think I'll go ahead and actually play this one. This is generally a guitar that I leave in what's called an open tuning, and what that means is the strings are tuned that when I strum a chord, it actually is an open, it's an open chord. So this is an A chord, it's an open A tuning. And the reason that I love this tuning is it's a pretty popular tuning for what old blues guys used to play in. So just to give you guys kind of an idea of what that sounds like, hopefully I don't blow us out of the water. Earlier I turned on the amplifier and blew up the whole office. It's not sounded like. Well, let's see. So. So just a little bit different of a sound, and you might have noticed this is it's called a glass slide. You can do this with copper pipe. A lot of old blues guys used to do it with the top of a bottle, and this one actually kind of resembles that shape, but it allows for a very different kind of sound, a more bluesy sound, and is just a really kind of fun way to play around. You can kind of rock and roll on those different riffs for hours and hours on end. Unfortunately, sometimes for my wife's case, she has to listen to me rock those kind of riffs just over and over and over again. So this one is called a Harmony Rocket. and again was not a particularly expensive guitar back in its time, but this is referred to as a semi-hollow electric, meaning that it's kind of got the best of both worlds. It's got the kind of the resonation that a acoustic guitar would have, but obviously also has the electric components. One of the things that is different about this guitar versus the acoustic is that it does have these magnetic pickups. These are referred to as single coil magnetic pickups, and that's what all of these different knobs are for, as well as this selector switch. In this particular model, you can switch, you can choose selector 1, where it's picking up off this top pickup, selector 3, or all 3 if you choose to do so. And these are tone knobs and a whole wealth. I could do a whole series just on this particular guitar. And then this last one is another just vintage guitar that I've owned. This is probably the instrument, this is probably the single item in my life that I've had for the longest period of time. I bought this guitar when I was in high school, and it was really the first instrument that I really played and held on to. I had a couple of cheaper guitars, but this one is a 1967 Gibson SG. It's very, very popular music in kind of classic rock and roll back in the day. Unfortunately, this guitar also is a victim of the 1980s. At one point, whoever owned this guitar prior to me must have played in a heavy metal band, because originally this guitar only had one pickup. This is called a soap bar pickup, or a P90, and it was down in what's called the bridge position. But unfortunately, they carved a big old hole and added this pickup down here and moved the original pickup up here. It is kind of a unique sound though, and it's always been one of my favorite instruments to play and share with folks. But this one, because it's getting older, you can see actually along the neck, it's starting to chip away, and it's my biggest fear that one day the neck is going to pop right off. So, but yeah, so I love vintage instruments. I just love the stories that they tell. I can just see, you know, somebody picking this up for the first time. They've been loved on and held and played for generations. It's really cool to me to have a guitar that's twice as old as I am laying around. So to kind of wrap things up for the show, we are actually going to go ahead and share a guitar song with you. Cabbage, are you going to sing with me?
I'll hum along and we'll see how it goes.
So let's play on the silver tone. Love. So I want to share, where did the deck go? I want to share a song that we sing every week at camp to close out our closing campfire. And this is a song called Country Roads. It was written by a man named John Denver. With this song, I think it's so relevant and so important to camp, because camp for a lot of people, myself included, is a home. It's a place where we feel like we really belong. It's a place where we can be whoever we want to be. You know, there were points in my life where I would have never, ever gotten on a live streaming platform and played guitar for a bunch of people. But because I'm here at camp, and because of the way that camp kind of taught me and the values that it gave me, I know that I could be exactly who I want to be, and I don't have to worry about it being anybody else. And that's one of those amazing things about camp. And we hope that you guys are ready to come back home, back to the place that you guys belong, just like John Denver writes in this song. So unfortunately, I have been playing this song for many years, but still have not committed it to memory. So I am going to have some cheater notes. So if you're with me at home, feel free to join along. Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is old there, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, growing like the breeze. Country roads take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia, Mountain Mama. country roads take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country road. I hear her voice in the morning. She calls me. The radio reminds me of my home far away. And driving down that road, I get a feeling that I should have been home yesterday. Yesterday. All together now. The road take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country road, country road, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country road, take me home, country road, take me home, down country road. That's our episode for today, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us and all of your support. And just remember to just remember us on Giving Tuesday now. We can't wait for each and every one of you to get back home, back here to the place that you belong. We love you all. Thank you. Have a great afternoon.